Why Somalia was returned to Italy after World War II? The untold story, the end of World War II, marked a dramatic shift in global power dynamics. Italy, having been defeated, faced the loss of its overseas colonies. But in an unexpected twist, Italian troops returned to Somalia just 5 years later. This raises a key question. Why did Italy regain control over Somalia even after its defeat in the war? The answer starts in 1947 when Italy signed the Paris Peace Treaty, a major international agreement where Italy was forced to renounce all claims to its former colonies. This included Libya, Eritrea, and Italian Somaliland, which is what we now call Somalia. According to the treaty, the future of these territories would be decided by the Soviet Union, United States, Great Britain, and France, the four victorious powers. If they couldn't reach an agreement, then the United Nations, UN, would have the final say. Each of these global powers had their own vision for the future of these colonies, and their differing goals led to intense negotiations. Great Britain. After the war, Britain was eager to expand its influence in East Africa. They wanted to create a greater Somalia under British rule, envisioning a larger British Empire in the region. The Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, wanting to gain more control over the Mediterranean region, initially pushed for influence over these territories, particularly Libya. When their request was rejected, they shifted to advocating for immediate independence for all the former Italian colonies. The United States. Although the U.S. had been a strong supporter of anti-colonial ideals, they were now deeply concerned about the Soviet Union's growing influence in Africa. The United States proposed putting the former Italian colonies directly under the administration of the United Nations, hoping to avoid both Soviet control and continued European colonial rule. France, on the other hand, was deeply worried about losing control of its own colonies, like Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. They didn't want to set a precedent by allowing Italy's former colonies to gain independence because they feared it could inspire similar independence movements in their own empire. When the four powers couldn't reach an agreement within the one-year deadline, the decision was handed over to the United Nations General Assembly. Now, the colonies would have to be negotiated by countries that had their own experiences with colonization, countries like those in Asia and Latin America, who were often less sympathetic to European colonial ambition. The global community was not in favor of Britain expanding its empire, and the idea of giving Somalia immediate independence seemed too risky, as it could lead to instability and chaos. So, after intense debates and negotiations, a compromise was reached. Libya, the most developed of the Italian colonies, was granted immediate independence. Eritrea was given to Ethiopia. And as for Somaliland, part of Somalia, it became clear that placing the territory under British control was no longer a viable option. Immediate independence was deemed too dangerous. That's when Italy was selected to administer Somaliland under a UN trusteeship system. But why Italy? Italy already had the infrastructure and experience needed to govern the territory. They knew how to run the administration, the economy, and manage local affairs, and crucially, they were a member of NATO by this point. The West saw this as a way to ensure that Somalia wouldn't fall under Soviet influence, which was a major concern during the early years of the Cold War. This decision also served as a symbolic gesture to help Italy move beyond its fascist past. By giving Italy a role in managing Somaliland, the West was acknowledging Italy's shift from being a defeated fascist power to becoming part of the Western Bloc, allied with the US and Europe. On November 21, 1949, the UN General Assembly officially voted to place Somaliland under Italian administration. Italy was granted the role of overseeing the territory until 1960, at which point Somalia would gain its full independence, merging with British Somaliland to form the Somali Republic. So, despite Italy's defeat in World War II, the country regained influence over Somalia as part of the larger geopolitical struggle between the Cold War powers. It wasn't just about managing the colony, it was about making sure the Soviet Union didn't take control, and about signaling that Italy was changing its role in the world. Conclusion. Italy's return to Somalia is a fascinating chapter in post-war history. It shows how the geopolitical struggles between global powers shaped the fate of African territories. The UN trusteeship system became a tool not only for managing